Adrian Belew, Steve Vai, Tony Levin, Danny Carey perform 80s King Crimson, Beat, a creative reinterpretation of the three iconic 80s King Crimson albums, Discipline, Beat, and Three of a Perfect Pair. Only the greatest players in the world would take on the challenge of performing this incredibly influential music. Prepare yourself for the experience of a lifetime with Beat, performing the 80s music of King Crimson.
Fine, how are you?
Well, everything he said is not true, man. I'm learning, man. I'm learning and I'm trying to keep learning in my career. I've been doing this for 35 years, so it's an honor for me to have you here.
Behind you have so much music.
And here is what we interest more.
Right, there you go.
As you see, I did the homework. I went to see.
Wow, look at that. You even got the right t-shirt. You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go, man. And what can I tell you? I'm very happy that you are going to come to Colombia because bands as King Crimson and all those kind of bands never comes to Colombia. So that's why I went to see you up on the States. I went to see you with King Crimson because nobody comes to Colombia too often as the bands do to Chile, Argentina. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, of course. Yeah, this is my first time coming to Colombia. I'm very excited about it.
Did you know that there is another band with the name of Beat?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm sure there are probably many around the world.
Just one, I was finding out, and it's one band named Beat. They're from Finland, and they were on since 79 till 1992. What a coincidence, huh? Go. So, Adrian, how did the idea came to set up Beat? We are very glad.
Well, in 2019, I realized that we were coming up upon the 40th anniversary of the 80s King Crimson, which would have happened in 2021. And so I got this idea in my head that we should try to celebrate it. So naturally, I called Robert Fripp and asked him if he was interested in doing that. And eventually he said over the next day or so that no, he didn't think he could do it. He was too involved in other things. But he told me that if I wanted to drive that and make that happen, I had his blessing to do that. So the first thing I did is I called Steve Vai because I figured if I have the right player in position to do Robert's parts, the rest of it will be a little easier. And I had read in an interview with Steve Vai that he loved that particular set of records, those three records, and in particular, he loved what Robert played on those records. So I thought maybe there's a chance he'd like to challenge, and it turned out that he did. So it took 5 years from that point because, first of all, right after he agreed to do it, the rest of it will be a little easier. And I had read in an interview with Steve Vai that he loved that particular set of records, those three records, and in particular, he loved what Robert played on those records. So I thought maybe there's a chance he'd like to challenge, and it turned out that he did. So it took 5 years from that point because, first of all, right after he agreed to do it, COVID hit. And so, as you know, nobody could do much of anything for a couple of years then. When that was over and people started doing concerts again, myself included, I called Steve back and said, "Are you still interested in doing this?" He said he was more interested than ever and more excited than ever. However, before COVID hit, he had 18 months of touring booked, and he now had to do the 18 months fulfillment of touring. So that put me back another 18 months. Meanwhile, I'd always had thought that the right bass player was Tony Levin, of course. I'd rather he's perfect. He's the guy who wrote the stuff for himself.
In the family.
Yeah, he's perfect for it. So I see Tony every year. We do a band camp every year, and every year we play King Crimson songs together with Pat Masalato. So, I'm in touch with him a lot. And I waited until he was finished with Peter Gabriel's touring, and then I asked him. And so he checked with Peter Gabriel, and Peter said he wouldn't be touring in the period that we needed. And so Tony was very excited about doing it. The last piece of the puzzle was, from the beginning, I thought the best drummer, perfect drummer, if you couldn't get Bill, and I did call Bill, and Bill didn't even play drums at that point. But if you can't get Bill, the one that I thought of, I've known Danny Carey for many, many years, and from the very beginning, he has told me that Bill Bruford inspired him so much. He learned so much from Bill, and that those 3 records actually changed his life. So the last piece of the puzzle was to wait when Tool were coming here where I live in Nashville. So I waited, went to their show, talked to him after the show. It turned out that Tool was just finishing out their touring. And he said, let me see if it's okay with my family, because he has 2 small children. And let me see what the guys in Tool say. And Tool are friends of mine too. So it all worked out, obviously. And a couple of days later, Danny called us and said, well, yep, he's ready to go.
Wow, man, what a story. Tool
5 years.
incredible, incredible. Tool just played a week ago, and what a concert. They did it for the first time in Colombia, and I got amazed about Danny, man. He's one of the best drummers. I think you did the right step.
Oh, yeah, he's perfect for it. He and I have played together many times. In fact, he's played on five songs on 2 of my solo records, along with Les Claypool. So I know his playing very, very well, and I knew he'd be perfect. And it turns out that Steve and Danny have taken this music. They've done the things I asked them to do perfectly, and I also asked them, please make it your own, and they've done that too. So the band really sounds great. It's an amazing band. It sounds like those records, but it also has its own thing.
Well, and now the hardest part. You got the guys together, but it was hard to select the songs for the playlists of the concerts.
No, that was something I had done before we even started. There are 16 actual songs on those 3 records. There were 2 that I decided I really didn't want to do. So that left 14 songs. In order to play the amount of music I wanted to play, I knew we would probably need about 19 or 20 songs. So I chose 4 of the major musical pieces, like Industry and Sheltering Sky and Sartori and Tangier, Lark's Tongue. And then when we first got together, we talked about whether or not to do anything from before the 80s. And Steve Vai said he'd like to do Red. So we added Red, and that was it. So now we had the 19 songs that we needed. It's a well-balanced set. I designed the set so that it's in 2 halves. I hope they let us do it that way in Bogota. But anyway, it's in 2 halves with a break in the middle. And it kind of goes, some of the more obscure stuff that King Crimson didn't even play much is in the first set. And all the great hits are in the second.
That's perfect. I have a question for you, Mr. Belew. You've been playing with the most wonderful artists in rock. One of my favorites is Frank Zappa, for example. Maybe have you thought to do the same thing with the Frank Zappa selection with the records you played with him or something like that?
Well, it turns out really, I didn't really play with that much with Frank. I mean, it was less than 1 year. So when you look at what my part of his catalog, it's very small. I sang 4 or 5 songs, and it's not enough really to put a whole show around it. So I don't think that's something that I should do. I think there are people like Dweezil and Mike Keneally and so many others who do it really well. But I do love Frank. I love him very much, and I love his music. I'm with you. He created incredible music, but I don't feel like it's something that I could contribute that much to without Frank. So, and there's plenty of other things. I've done Celebrating David Bowie now. I'm doing Remain in Light with Jerry Harrison now, which is
Yeah, great.
doing the Remain in Light record. And so I feel like I've covered now the past things, and Beat is going to continue. Of course, we're trying to do a whole world tour, and then the next thing on my agenda will be to get back to my solo work, and
That's right.
and go from there, and see how far I can take that. I'm
I was
75, but I feel I can play for another 20 years.
You're wonderful, man. I was going to ask you that, Mr. Belew. You know, you have a huge solo collection. I've been playing a lot of them through the years. The last one was Elevator in 2022. Have you have any plans to set up a new album?
Oh, sure. I have a new album. I have some new music always in the works. So right now I have probably six or maybe eight pieces that I'm working on, but I don't have enough time to finish it out now. I have to wait till probably after the end of this year, early next year. I'll start back into making new music. But by the way, I did put together a compilation record called A Toe in the Ocean, which is, I think it's something like 28 songs from different selections of pieces that I thought maybe people missed. Not everybody has every record. I don't expect them to, but A Toe in the Ocean kind of catches people up.
That's right.
And it has two new songs on it, too.
That's right. Mr. Belew, you're a singer for excellence, you know. How do you feel your voice now compared in the beginning? Are you comfortable with your voice, and what do you want to tell us, you know?
I feel my voice is better than ever, honestly. I've read that if you're a singer and you sing a lot, your voice matures in a good way, especially if you don't do stupid things like smoke cigarettes or something, which I've never done. So I feel like when I did the Beat tour, my voice was just perfectly strong, and everyone actually mentioned it a lot. Like, wow, you sing as good or better than ever. So it's just something when it's like a muscle, really. It's trained now, and I can do pretty much anything I want with my voice. I feel like my range is still there, and maybe my tone and expression has gotten even better.
And your attitude also, man. You got a great attitude when you're singing. I love it.
Well, I just love being performing in front of our audiences. They give me so much energy. And that's the funny thing, though. I love coming to South America because of all the audiences I play for around the world. I think they're the most exciting audience to play for. They love the music so much, they know it really well, and they just get so thrilled with it. So it gives me a lot of energy when the audience is, well, I'll put it this way, if the audience is excited, we play better.
Well, you never came before, you know. It's been 30 years waiting for some piece of Zappa, some piece of Crimson, some piece of Bowie. They never came. So that's why we are so emotional, you know.
Yeah, well, I've been to other places in South America many times. Like I said, I'm very excited to play in Colombia, in Bogota, for the first time ever. But I've had a lot of other experiences there, and it's always been my experience that the the music lovers there are more excited than anybody. This is a great thing.
Mr. Belew, before I let you go, because I know you're a pretty busy man, uh, how do you see the new prog bands? You know, you are part of the history of the progressive rock during decades, but now it's a huge movement. You know, there is a lot of new bands like, let's say, Haken, Flower Kings. There is a lot. How do you feel and how do you see them?
Well, every year, pretty much every year, I do a cruise that is a prog rock cruise with 20 bands. It's called Cruise to the Edge. It began with the members of Yes, and
Yeah.
and it's been going for I don't know how many years, maybe 8 or 10 years now, and I've done quite a few of them. So the point being, I have heard and met many of those bands now, Hawken and Marillion, and just so many great bands, and I feel like it's wonderful that they're continuing that on, and I know they all have history of liking King Crimson and being inspired by King Crimson. So whenever I'm on those tours, I just feel so good because all the people there are great people and they're playing wonderful music. I'm so happy that it's catching on again.
Last question. What message do you want to tell to the Colombian rockers that they've been listening to your music since you started, and we can't wait to see you here?
Well, I would say to everyone, as I've been saying, I'm so excited. I know everyone in Beat is so excited to be there. This is a very, very exceptional and special experience to have these four people doing this music. It's so wonderful because there's no problems. Everyone is perfect for this, even everyone in our crew. So it's one of those magical situations where everyone is really great at what they do, and the show is wonderful. So I hope that all the musicians especially will turn out because I love to play for musicians. I know that I always get inspired when I hear other musicians. So I hope they'll all turn out, and I can't wait to be there.
Mr. Belew, you've been very kind. Thank you very much for your time and no worries about it being late.
Well, I hope to meet you too, and you're very kind, and you've done a great interview. I appreciate it. So we'll see you pretty soon.